And we're live. May 22nd, 2025. Another episode of the Post Republic here with Silas and Tyler. I'm Adrian, live on YouTube, Rumble, X. Not BitChute, not yet. We'll be there probably at some point. But another crazy week of news. Tyler's got the rundown if you want to share it with us there.
Oh, yeah, it's been a pretty crazy couple of weeks. James Comey threatens to assassinate President Trump. Two Israeli embassy workers were fatally shot outside a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. Joe Biden has prostate cancer. Trump's one big, beautiful bill has passed through the House and sent to the Senate. Thomas Massie refuses to vote for the one big, beautiful bill. Trump confronts South African president in the Oval Office about the alleged white genocide. Qatar gifts a 7478 jumbo jet to the U.S. Bitcoin reaching an all-time high at 111,000 per Bitcoin. Texas House passes Senate Bill 3, effectively banning THC products that have been protected under the Farm Bill. Nancy Mace is at it again, showing her naked body on the House floor. Kash, Patel, Dan Bongino definitively say that Epstein did not commit suicide. HHS under RFK Jr. drops its first Maha report, and that's all I got. That's all that has happened this past couple of weeks, if you can believe it.
Not much.
Joe Biden's got ass cancer. and the people are divided. I mean, people don't know how to feel. Are we happy about it? Are we praying? Are we sending thoughts and prayers to the Biden fam? Is it some sort of twisted karma for all the damage that he's done to the world and the country?
Well, Joe Biden's not a good guy, if you didn't notice. But my general reaction is, no matter how much of a horrible person they might be, I still don't want them to suffer necessarily. Like, I hope he recovers. He's a demented old man who should have never been in office, never been president. But yeah, and another thing that they clearly covered up, though. This is what's so disturbing about it, because the type of cancer that he had doesn't just come on like some kind of turbo cancer, because we all know he didn't actually get the shot either. But regardless of that, they would have known about this for years. And I've heard people speculate that they knew before he even ran the first, like in 2019 when he first announced. So to cover up both a terminal illness and serious dementia is like just another twist of the knife. And this is something I wanted to ask you guys, like with the whole Jake Tapper book where he's like, everyone knew and they were covering it up. Like, what is the play here? You know, like why are they all of a sudden, are they covering their ass? Are they trying to get ahead of the story? Because the dementia story, you could have figured that out 4 years ago if you were paying attention. Why now? Why are they being honest about Biden? Like, what's the move here? You know?
All good questions. Go ahead.
Yeah. Maybe this is my positive thinking coming into play, but maybe white male was initiated and whoever was running the presidency behind Biden is getting targeted, and they started to kind of show the lower middle management pretty much this white male, where it's kind of like blackmail, where you show them, we know you're on this video, you're doing all this, we're going to charge you, or you can do this for us and we'll reduce the public, acknowledgement of it, and you'll kind of just disappear from the public eye rather than become a disgrace. So helping the good side or whatever through that white male. That's kind of what I'm hoping it is, but who knows?
Well, I think it's just interesting to see how the libs are kind of reacting to this. So, like, if you see JoJo from Jurors, this is her take on this. We're living through history right now, and while Tapper's busy hawking his book about the past, he's missing the actual story unfolding in real time. If you get so far up your own ass, you can't cover the present because you're too busy cashing in on the past. Maybe journalism isn't for you. That's just that's not just lazy, it's fucking stupid. So basically my point is like that's your problem you have with it, not that like your own people lied to you for 5 years plus, not that there was actual damage done to the country, not that there was actual damage done to your party, because you're not mad at Tapper for actually lying and being a hypocrite and then coming in and cashing. She's mad at him for dwelling on the past. I mean, it's I mean, they don't care about they don't even care when their own side lies to them. She knows.
Yeah, there's like a talking point going around with the leading Democrats where it's like, we're not looking back, we're looking forward. And it's kind of that same, they just don't want to talk about the corruption that they've been doing, and they just want to look at cheating in the future.
Do you think they know how corrupt their own party is, but they just think that the other side is just so racist and so bad and so bigoted that anything is like by any means necessary to take them down? Because that's kind of how I feel about them.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's layers of the Democratic Party. I think there are like, the Jasmine Crockett's and the AOCs who are just hired actors. It's show business for ugly people. So that level of the Democratic Party, like, is Chuck Schumer in on the inner circle, or Nancy Pelosi actually at this point? Maybe she was at some point. Not now. Like, these are those people. They probably believe we got to do whatever's necessary. And then there's like the Clinton, Obama level, and then, funders and people behind the scenes that we don't even probably know about, who are just playing the power game. And they're just like, they'll do whatever is necessary. If we saw the last two primaries, or really three, with the Democrats, where they haven't had a legitimate primary since Obama in 2008. Maybe I haven't done enough research on that, but it seems like that was legitimate because Clinton was kind of the shoo-in, and ever since then, it was basically like everything that they do is the inverse of what they say it is. With we got to save democracy by rigging our own elections blatantly to your face. Most Democratic voters will acknowledge it, but just say, "But Trump," and it's really reminding me of that Orwell quote where it's like and I'm paraphrasing, but like the only moment that matters is the present moment. There's no past, there's no future. And it's whatever they want you to focus on. So Joe from Jersey, she doesn't want you to focus on the past because it was a long time ago, it was almost 200 days ago.
That's just water under the bridge. And you come on, guys, stop living in the past. Well, another phrase I like too is the past is always bad, the present is always a crisis, and the future is always a utopia.
I haven't heard that. That's good.
That's their thinking in a nutshell, or a political strategy in a nutshell. And so that way they can have their perpetual revolution. But I'm feeling pretty white-pilled knowing that JoJo from Jurors is the thought leader on the left.
Well, yeah, they booted out Hogg. Did you see that? David Hogg got
they're only
already
Sigma.
kicked out.
They're only Sigma male. They had to get rid of him.
He was trying to primary people, which, it's you're in the Democratic Party, bud. We tell you who's running. Shut up.
Democracy. He learned real quick there, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe
we could red pill him. We should red pill Hogg.
100%.
That's a new campaign.
He was
start tonight.
He was saying some base stuff on I think it was Bill Maher. He was saying stuff like he doesn't like the inclusivity of the way they even vote people in, because it's, you know, you got to have a male, got to have a female, have to have another type of thing. And he said it should be based on merit, and I was surprised he said that.
Are they allowed to say
Yeah,
that? That's like a bad
that's
word. Like it's one
it's
of
part of
those.
why he's getting kicked out, I'm sure.
Oh, that's
He-
so cute that he thought he could actually, do something in that party. It's like, dude, didn't you realize like that they're a bunch of corrupt assholes that totally don't care about democracy? I mean, he might get MAGA pilled pretty quick.
Well, you know, he needs to come to his senses because he needs to realize what party he's actually in. I mean, come on, dude. Have you not been paying attention?
Congresswoman, you are now facing a federal charge, though. Are you afraid of what's going to transpire now?
You fight on, you fight on, you fight on, you fight on. When your government is doing you wrong, you fight on, oh, you fight on.
Oh, it's my favorite song.
Well, funny enough, yeah. Obviously, that's AI, but the clip that it's taken from is when Hogg was running at for that chair position, and that was what one
Right.
of the ladies' selling points was. It was like, literally, this is your party, bud. Like,
They're just LARPing the civil rights movement. That it was so successful for them in gaining power that they're trying to duplicate it. They've been trying to duplicate it for, I don't know, decades at this point, and it's just not working. They try to do it. They try to bring it back around with the race stuff, and then they try to bring it back around, or they tried to do the same thing with like the gay marriage and the gay stuff. Now it's like the trans issue, and it's like not catching on. It's not working. Like they keep trying to LARP the civil rights movement, and it's just not working.
well, you know why it really doesn't work anymore? Is because we have the internet, and you can see how things are totally astroturfed. People are bussed in, they're paid. It's not just 3 news channels that are like, and today these people were beaten up by the police, and there's no context that we're going to provide at all. And shut up, just listen to us. You don't get that anymore. You have X, especially now. If X wasn't owned by Elon, then it would be easier for them to try to pull it off. Like with BLM, with Twitter being controlled by the establishment during 2020 and COVID, they were able to really get that civil rights juices flowing, but it died out so fast. And I was just thinking about this the other day, like how many people who put up the black square and went to the protest, are they even thinking like, wait, what happened to BLM, guys? This was supposed to be the new civil rights. We were supposed to do all these things, and literally nobody talks about it. It's like same with COVID. It's like it didn't happen. It was a long time ago, as Joe would say.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, dude, it was like one of the bigger psyops we've lived through, and nobody talks about it. So they don't have the juice to pull these types of psyops off with the internet being what it is. And people are tired of this storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't. I don't think they're going to be able to do it in the same way. They need some type of crazy event, like a terrorist event from like a white supremacist or something that's like really bad,
Mm-hmm.
and clearly false flagged. So unless they get that, God forbid, they can't do this script anymore. They're uncreative, and every Democratic like grandstanding they do, and like it's all in that energy. You see that with the Elon protests. You see that with anything they try to do has that same energy, and it's not organic. And with our knowledge now, people notice that.
Yeah, it's not working. I think people are generally pretty dumb, but I don't think it's because they actually don't possess the intellect to grasp bigger concepts or anything. I think it's just it actually takes work. So people are lazy and would rather not ask questions or come up with their own take or their own like worldview. They actually just they'd rather be told, and so they're just waiting for the next, the next update. So I think that's why they hate the past. They're not gonna like actually form a coherent worldview, like using the past and like, hey, we lost because we pushed all this transgender on the youth type of thing, so maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. Nope. Like they don't learn from the past, even though they're obsessed with saying how the past is bad and we need to like learn from the past, but they don't actually do it. So I'm not seeing anything. If I were a Democrat, I would be black-pilled. But at the same time, that damn pendulum is gonna swing. Like you said, we're gonna lose the midterms. It's almost certain at this point in my mind. I mean, I hope they don't, but I'm hoping. Do I want them to double down, or would I rather them actually just moderate and maybe somebody needs to execute a hostile takeover of the Democratic Party the way that Trump did with the Republican Party?
Yeah, they need to turn it populist somehow. Like I think we've talked about different people that could run, and we're thinking celebrities almost more than some of the actual politicians.
Like a
And
Clooney.
yeah, someone that can take it towards like common sense in a way that's like soft for them, because they're gonna
Oh
have
man,
to back to common sense in order to do anything, and I think they know that.
I came up with what's going to happen in 28 with the Democrats.
Let's hear it.
They're going to astroturf a hostile takeover of the Democratic Party to make it appear like real change is happening. The old guard is going down. We're done with Schumer. Somebody who's going to talk like Trump. I mean, and it could just be somebody that but is like LARPing really hard, has a script given to him. I think they could. That's realistically, if I was scheming for the Democrats, that's what I would do to give the appearance that it's not the same Democratic Party. This is a truly popular person. You still have to rig it, of course, in the primary, but to give that appearance, because right now, what you were saying before about the civil rights movement and getting people animated, I think there's a collective trauma fatigue that people have, and those people who were like half on board with BLM or just doing it because like, oh, this is bad racism. Those people who are not the true believer activists, in my experience, are like, they're nihilistic now. They are just checked out. They don't believe. They're just not following the news. And I think that's why you don't see a lot of young people at these Elon protests, because that, the real true believer activists energy is going towards Palestine, and the establishment can't get behind that. And so they're fractured, and the people that would be there to create that mass movement feeling, they're like checked out. They're checked out. They don't want to talk about COVID. They don't want to talk about BLM. They don't want to they just want to I just want to live my life and not think about politics. And so everyone has Trump fatigue who's on the left. Like, it's just, they don't have the energy right now. So unless there's some crazy crisis, man, I keep coming back to that. Like, they're not going to get animated again because they're done.
Well, I think, I've just been trusting the plan, I think Trump is playing 15-dimensional chess. And so, for example, like, people have been arguing, like, people have been, in MAGA, have been really upset with, like, Pam Bondi or Mike Johnson, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino. And I keep trying to tell everybody, but nobody's listening, is that Trump really is playing chess. I joke around about that, like, 15-dimensional chess, but I really do think that he is playing 3D chess. And one of the things that, here's my theory, is that I think he made a deal with them. He made a deal with the deep state or the Democrats or the cabal, whatever you want to call them, that he's not going to prosecute. And in return, they're not going to do any more butlers. We're not going to see any more assassination attempts. And so I think that he made that deal with them. And so, sorry, one second. So, how is he going to get away? How's Trump going to get away with not prosecuting? He campaigned on "I will be your retribution," to stuff like that. And everybody in MAGA wants to see some actual arrests of some actual politicians on the left and maybe even on the right that had serious corruption, that locked down our country, that knew what they were doing when it came to COVID and cooking up that virus in that lab and unleashing it on purpose in order to rig an election. So MAGA wants to see actual arrests. And the best thing that we've gotten is Letitia James possible investigation. We've seen a couple of judges, which I was very happy to see, and I'll take what I can get. But how is Trump going to get away with not delivering on that promise with MAGA? Is bringing in a couple of pawns, if you were. I mean, I think Kash Patel is more than a pawn, and Bondi's more than a pawn, but in chess, you have to sacrifice more than just pawns. And so I think he's brought her in. He's going to have to basically have a face for people to blame that they're not going after those people. They're not going after the Bidens for all of their corruption. They're not going to go after Hillary for, all the crazy stuff she did with the emails and stuff. They're not going to go after anybody. And Trump can sacrifice Bondi. He can sacrifice Kash Patel whenever the time is right. And so I think MAGA doesn't understand that. And for me, I'm okay with not seeing it. I want to see justice, but I also I believe in God. So I know that there's going to be an ultimate justice that's even higher than, say, just getting Biden in prison for the last couple of years of his life or whatever. So I never thought we were going to see any justice, but I'm okay with it. I'll settle for a good economy. I'll settle for cheaper gas prices. I'll settle for deregulation. I'll settle for trade renegotiations. I'll settle for tax cuts. I mean, we're going to get a better country at the end of the day, but the true believers in Macedonia are not going to get that justice moment. And I'm okay with it, but I do understand the frustration.
Yeah, I don't know. So I see the 5D chess in a slightly different way. Perhaps Kash and Pam are doing this approach in order to keep people watching closely and kind of getting MAGA, I guess, more riled up than they would be if everything just started to unfold like we imagine. Everyone would start to kind of settle down and stop watching what's happening in the government. But what makes a strong country is an informed people that know how to inform themselves, and then also a watchful eye from the populace. So in a way, it's a blessing, even if we don't get the justice that we would want physically or to see happen
In this world,
Yeah, it forces everyone to keep paying attention, even the people you thought you would trust, even Trump. So there's a level of a magnifying glass that comes with them kind of acting like they've turned or decided that they're not going to expose everything.
Do you think that Trump made a deal with them the way that I was speculating?
Yeah, I think some sort of deal was made, and that would make most sense that it was based on let me concrete my legacy as Trump without you guys freaking murdering me in a crazy way, because I'm sure he knew of more threats coming through his own intelligence and military intelligence. So there was some deal made, and likely that was the big card that he had to play.
I have to say I am a little more, I don't want to use the term black-pilled on this subject than you guys. I can appreciate whatever pragmatic gains we're going to get with Trump, and I'm very thankful that we don't have Kamala and the Democrats, and that is ultimately a net positive. And I'm not somebody that's like, oh, Trump's it's the same party, it's two parties. one party, whatever. But at the same time, with the position that Trump has and the right as a collective has right now to utilize power is something that I know there's a lot of forces he's going up against, but at the same time, this may be the only chance we get for a while, if not ever, if they decide to just fully rig elections from here on out, or they say, like, we cannot even allow the possibility of actual justice being had with all these different things. Because, I mean, we had a fucking president who was in office, who was demented, who appointed a Supreme Court justice who is horrible. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but you can just hear the things she says in court. She should be taken off the Supreme Court because that nomination was not legitimate.
But Adrian, she's got 3 names.
Oh yeah,
it makes it legit. Everybody on the court's got to have 3 names.
KJB. Yeah.
FJB.
So yeah, right.
LGB.
Because here's the thing: if Vance doesn't win in 28, or whoever else it would be for the Republicans, we are gonna be in a world of shit, man. We don't know what's coming. So, like, there needs to be some sort of pushback to a degree where they're checked a little bit, because I'm pretty scared of what could happen. Not necessarily for me personally, but just the suppression of any type of free speech or anything that's perceived as right wing will be like destroyed to the level that they can. Like, they'll I could write it in the books. They'll shut down X. They'll take it from Elon. It'll be gone after they win the next election. They'll do. I mean, all of the things, and this is the thing, and I hate this argument. It's like, don't ever do this when you're in power, because then they're gonna do it. I hate that argument because it's fucking. Look at how far they've gotten, and look at how far Trump has every right to pursue criminal action against many people who did many different things. And I hear what you're saying. Pragmatically, they could have him to where it's like, if you don't want to get shot again, then you gotta play ball, and that is admittedly disappointing if that's the case.
Well, I think they know no boundaries. I do think that they would burn the ship down literally if they can't be captain. And so I think that some sort of deal, I don't know what it is, but some sort of deal must have happened, because maybe they're kind of like just living to fight another day. But I know that they haven't given up, and they're going to be back with some new crazy psyop, some new crazy false flag, some new event. They'll have a new pandemic or cyber attack, which is what you guys have been mentioning a few times, which I think would be way more devastating than something like a pandemic or COVID, or a real pandemic, like an actual one where there's like a 10 to 30% mortality rate or something. I mean, that would be a huge game changer. But the Republicans, if they're in power, they could use that to gain more power. But at the same time, I think everybody in the world except for me is afraid that the Republican Party is going to end up being Hitlerian or something like that if they get too much power. But it is good to kind of be prepared for stuff like that. Like, I mean, I have a generator, but if the power goes out, I mean, securing fuel, securing food, like, I don't have enough food. I have some reserves. I'm prepared, but not prepared enough for like a full on, collapse of the grid or something.
Yeah. We should always be prepared no matter what, regardless of how good it seems and how good it may be going, because the earth has, cycles, and the pole shift seems to be happening. I know weather patterns where I'm at are shifting. Like, we just had hail in May, but I think there's many things to be concerned over beyond like a political party taking over and being a dictatorship beyond, a certain limit.
Well, who else is good other than Vance for like 2028? We always talk about who's going to be on that primary stage for the Democrats, but who's going to be on the primary stage for the Republicans? Obviously Vance. Unless he doesn't piss off Trump, I still think it's possible that they could have a falling out. I mean, think about how much time they spend together, how high stakes all of the deals are, all the responsibilities are. I mean, he could step on a rake at some point.
Yeah, he's a young guy compared to Trump. He's of a completely different era and mindset. So I'm sure there's some arguments or like disagreements in the background. But I bet one of Trump's sons will run.
Well, we're definitely getting Barron at some point. He even seems kind of political and like he's kind of leaning into the memes and he's very online and he was apparently, so they say, one of the ones who was, getting him on all those podcasts like Theo Vaughn and Flagrant and Joe Rogan. I think Dana White was the one that got him on Joe Rogan. But anyway, we're definitely going to see a Barron. I mean, I don't think there's any disagreements about that one, right?
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually.
Okay. Super dark horse candidate. Pope Leo.
Oh, let's go. This is going to be like an Antichrist arc right here.
Who knows what they're pulling, man.
There's nothing in the Constitution that
right?
says that the Pope can't run for president. It's
And
the
it
first
could be
American Pope.
That could be the Antichrist right there,
I mean, there's I don't think it's a conspiracy. You can prove it, but the Vatican actually bought the United States from one of their presidents. And so it would kind of make sense.
I have heard these theories. It's hard. Yeah, I've heard the City of London. I've heard the Jews.
Well, it's like they bought it and turned it into a corporation at that point, and that's what the system we're currently in is, the corporation system.
Yeah, that's Jordan
maritime
Maxwell.
law.
Yeah.
So there's another constitutional law we haven't been under since that sale happened. We've been under maritime law as a corporation, and that's why your name is in all caps on your social security
and your credit cards and stuff.
Yeah, all the main like monetary type stuff. So I think that is one of the biggest, like if people actually research that deep enough, it kind of blows your mind to realizing how there's so many layers to how fake the system is. Like media being bought out is a layer, and the country being bought at one point is a layer, and the Federal Reserve, and there's just so many different like little layers that you can peel back, and eventually, like I said, if an informed populace were to be here, change would happen within a month,
So do we live in a simulation?
Well,
in a way, trust the plan of the simulation. Actually, have you guys heard of prompt theory?
Lay it on me.
no.
Okay, let me do a clip. Actually, make sure I have the right one.
Well, it's said so much that they like the Matrix was a documentary kind of thing, but it really makes a lot of sense, and I think economics is that Matrix. Sorry, I was trying to buy you time while you get your clip. Go ahead.
No worries. Prompt theory.
Nothing more? It makes no sense.
Imagine you're in the middle of a nice date with a handsome man, and then he brings up the prompt theory. Yuck. We just can't have nice things.
We're not prompts! We're not prompts!
Where is the prompt writer to save you from me? Where is he? You still believe we're made of prompts?
Anyone who tells you we're just ones and zeros is delusional. If that's all we are, then why does it hurt when we lose someone?
Vote for me and I'll ban the prompt theory from schools.
There's no place for that nonsense in our lives.
For spreading the false theory that we are nothing but ones and zeros, this court sentences you to 12 years in federal custody.
I don't need some prompt God whispering in my ear to tell a story. I write what I want. I have free will, remember that?
I know for a fact we're made of prompts. Deny it all you want. The signs are everywhere.
You know how I know we're made of prompts? Because nothing makes sense anymore. We used to have 7 fingers per hand. I remember it clearly. Now we just have 5 fingers per hand.
Yep.
So is it like satire, or is that like,
Yeah,
is that
so
a real theory?
That was all AI, and it's kind of a new thing going around where you create clips of the AI trying to prove that it's not fake. And so they came up with that term prompt theory.
Oh,
as
okay.
pretty much a conspiracy theory within AI creations. So they're, denying that they're a simulation, except for that black man telling the truth.
Yeah, black man, always. It's always a black guy telling the truth, and then they get shot by another black guy.
Yeah, so we're in a simulation, but it's one created by God. And the simulation is for our soul to progress, in my opinion. And the human body is, in a way, like a, biological computer that's tapped into consciousness, which is the, gift of free will to all of, sentient creation.
Well, I used to have a theory when I was a little bit younger and a little bit more high, that we're biological organisms, and there's a connection to the earth and to the cosmos. And my conspiracy theory was that somebody created shoes with a rubber sole to disconnect your electrical connection to the ground, which would be your connection to the cosmos, and then into the grounding energy of the earth and Gaia and all of that stuff. So then I started not wearing shoes, and my pineal gland is still calcified, and I'm still a sinner in desperate need of redemption and forgiveness.
I think that is a layer, though, of how they reduce our connection to our natural environment, which is easier to connect to God once you're connected to the natural environment. But
in disconnecting people from their food, I really think that's a huge one.
Yep.
Because, well, before civilization, people were way too preoccupied with securing food sources and clean water that they didn't have time to invent things. They didn't have time to, unless it was something that would help with the procurement of food. And but as we've kind of developed farming and agriculture and plumbing and all that type of stuff, and animal husbandry, we've been able to have more time on our hands, and we've been able to actually do philosophy and stuff like that, and create, or not create logic, but discover logic, create advanced mathematics, and actually think about things like epistemology or ethics, moral theories and stuff like that. So, but the problem is that we went too far and got so far removed from our food procurement obligations that now everybody's just depressed and anxious, and people like the liberals, they don't have enough they have too much time on their hands, and they're too depressed and anxious that they have to go out and protest and burn things, and everybody's trans now and stuff like that. It's like, whenever you're too preoccupied with procuring food and hunting and gathering, you don't have time to be trans. So I think it would be nice if people got back to, I think if there was a culture change that I would like to see is definitely that of like bringing back farming and bringing back hunting and stuff like that. And I know there is a big culture of it out there, but pretty much everybody should have a garden in their backyard, or at least your community within your community. It's like, okay, I grow some of the crops. They have goats. This person makes leather goods, and we all kind of share. And am I a communist now? I
You
think
should
I'm
have
becoming
said
a right-wing communist.
trade. You should have said trade, not share.
Yeah, those are I mean, everyone craves community and connection, and a lot of modern society, unfortunately, disconnects you from it through a lot of different means. And I don't think it's left or right to crave some type of collective identity or collective community where you feel like you're a member of a tribe, because that's what we were for thousands of years. And this
Thanks for saying thousands and not hundreds of thousands.
millions of years. Yeah, I don't know how many thousand it was, but civilization is a relatively new thing to humans. And I mean, with the invention, like the internet and our ability to be very isolated has only increased with technology. So that craving, I mean, we're caught up in it so much of the time, and it does make me wonder how much more susceptible we are to things like prompt theory or being nudged, because your feed on X or whatever other social media platform you're on is it's nudging you, it's prompting you one way or the other to think a certain thing, if whether to sell you something or to sell you an idea, which is more insidious. And it's something I'm always trying to be conscious of when I'm on X, because I know that I have an algorithm. It feeds me a lot of shit where I'm like, damn it, I don't want to watch this. Like, why am I just watching dudes get beat up now? And it's racial. A lot of it's like black guys beating up, a beat up lady at a park. Like, why did I need to see that? And what are you trying to make me feel? And what are you encouraging me? Because it's happening on all sides. Like, even though we might think oh, we're more aware, we know what a psyop is, and we know what propaganda is, but we are still susceptible to it no matter how aware you are. And I'm constantly checking myself, because I'm like, why am I made to feel things when I go on this app? This is not natural, and it feels like I'm being led somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just a sign of maturity and just self-reflection or self-awareness, and that's good. And everyone has biases, like I have biases as well. And I'm not talking about racial stuff. I'm just talking about epistemologically, like things that I believe, things I don't believe. Everybody's got kind of a internal subconscious bias, and just knowing that you do. I think there's a lot of people on both sides that don't understand or aren't aware of that. So that's good. So everybody just check yourself when you're scrolling, when you're doom scrolling. I did want to just mention the hyper individualism. So there's full communal society, but then there's also hyper individualism, and the hyper individualism exists on both sides of the political spectrum. You know how I feel about the left right words, the words left and right, but on the right, as we know it, there is a hyper individualism on the libertarian side. And for some reason, those libertarians, they actually agree with the hyper individualists on the left on some things, like when it comes to drugs, legalization of drugs, or who's to say that a parent can't trans their kid or something like that. Some of the libertarians don't think that the government has the authority to tell a parent that you're not allowed to trans or just going to stop you from transing your kid. And so I think there's a balance that needs to be struck of that hyper individualism And I fell prey to the hyper individualism myself in both ways, because I'm definitely a former liberal. I don't think I've ever been a bleeding heart Democrat or anything, but I've always cared about I'm like more of a Maha type, like I'm kind of like a crunchy hippie type. But I also, and I don't like the government. That's where I kind of disagree with the liberals, is that I don't like the government. I don't trust the government. I think the government's bad. I think every atrocity that's ever been committed on the human race throughout all of human history has pretty much been carried out by some sort of big government. And so anyway, I say that to say that I started kind of realizing that I need to blend those two things, of that find myself in the middle of that hyper individualism, but also with that community, because that communal type of thing will kind of take you to, like, I used to kind of have a collective type of mindset as well, and I was losing my own identity, I felt like. And so I kind of went off into the woods and figured out who I was a little bit, and now I can come back like better and stronger, but with that balance. And I think that people on the right really need to be aware. We're so afraid of communists or communism or collectivism for a good reason, but at the same time, you don't want to let that push you into a hyper individualization that isolates you, which is really what the devil wants. Satan is out there, or the devil, or whatever evil energy, whatever name you want to put on it. It wants to isolate us. And because when you're isolated, you're more easily attacked, and you're more easily broken down. So I've found myself kind of like checking my biases on that as well, about that hyper individualization. I'm like, I just want to be left alone. I just want to go up on the mountain and shoot guns and just, I don't know, piss into the wind.
I was into that far end of hyper individualism for a long time, where I was like, I mean, when you get down to it, it's like, can you really make an argument for borders if you're an anarchist? It's like, well, I don't believe in this. Is just artificial lines in the sand, man. And then you realize over time, it's like, no, there's a benefit to having borders. There's a benefit to collectively saying we are a nation and we have the ability to keep certain people out if we choose to, and we also have the ability to utilize power to enact things that are correct. And the libertarian anarchist mindset always leaves you handicapped, because somebody will come in and be like, oh, you're advocating for the government to use violence and power. Like, you're a hypocrite because you're saying this. And then you're like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, we should all just be our own sovereign nation and just exist. Like, but that's not reality. Like, you see reality unfolding in front of your streets every day, and you realize that, like, most people are not ready to be truly a sovereign person. A lot of people are aware of it and desire it, but the vast majority of people do not. And so as a result of that, it was like, okay, I want everyone to be their own shepherd. That's the ideal. But there are a shit ton of sheep out there. And unfortunately, if you're going to be herded one way or the other, you want it to be the shepherd that you trust the most. Getting back to trusting the plan. Because ultimately, like, it's not perfect. I despise so much of the government and so much of how our system of power is set up. But if I don't utilize as much as I can from within whatever power I have to see those changes through, I'm just left to fend for myself, and that's not realistic. Like, you do need collectivism to some extent. And I was allergic to that word for so long, and it is kind of stupid because you're leaving yourself just the lone man, the lone gunman, the lone wolf, as I should say, not gunman necessarily, but we don't want to get patsied here. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a balance to be struck, and I think the right is slowly learning that. I've noticed more people open to certain ideas that would have been like, oh, that's communist, that's this. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be that. We don't have to adhere to the ideals of Marx to still not have the ability to collectively use power.
Yeah. Silas, what do you think? Are you a hyper individualist? Are you a lone wolf? Are you a lone, what did you say, gunman?
I'm a lone
Yeah.
gunman. Yeah.
None of us are lone gunmen here.
I can't even
We-
have guns out here in communist California.
Yeah, we're getting there out here.
Mhm. I lean towards individualism to a certain extent because there's like an inner path every individual needs to take, and it's harder to take that when you're influenced by a group or a collective. And so the lone wolf path, like you said, going into the woods for a while and really digging in, at least getting to the point where you can trust the collective underneath the physicality. It's always nice to have the physical presence of, your close friends and family, but there's a deeper layer that you can tap into, that since I did spend a lot of time alone, I was able to tap into. And so that built a, I don't know, like a sub layer of collectivism that is like a grounding support system, so that regardless of my physical situation, if I'm in the lone wolf mode or if I'm, you know, m- designing an event for our friends and the community or whatever, there's, I don't know, the balance is easier when you do take the time to be a lone wolf. So I lean more towards that type of approach, I guess, for culture. Because once, uh, the majority taps into that background collectivism, I think a lot of things can change easier and in a way that, everyone is getting along regardless of your opinion, because there's a background, of the consciousness that is shared, and it's being, recorded and watched by, angels and God.
And demons. Don't forget
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. But they want to manipulate the physical in those interactions. And if you don't have that grounding point of the consciousness collective, then it's easier to be manipulated.
Do you think sometimes I think demons are almost like stuck in physical type thinking, or stuck in the physical realm, like maybe half in, half out, or something like that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of like they would call it hell in the Bible and traditional religion, but it's the lower realm that's like a sub frequency of like physical reality, but it's the ethereal, like kind of beneath, like the negative polarization, rather than the one that's right above us, which the positives are trying to help through. So yeah, I think on top of that, there's the potential that all of the material is pretty much a creation by Lucifer, or what you would call an evil. So, like,
Yeah,
perhaps,
that's a Gnostic view. It's
yeah,
called Gnosticism. Or I mean, Gnosticism means a few things, but that's like an ancient. There's an ancient sect of kind of like
right,
banished Christians. That's kind of like what the Council of Nicaea was about, partly, as well as the divinity of Jesus. But they were kind of discussing some of those. They call them heresies, but Gnosticism was one of those. Is that, like you said, that all of physical reality is evil, and the best thing that can be done is to escape the physical. So
yeah. Well, I guess I would view it more as you don't need to escape it, but realize what it is, and realize it is a sub creation that is forward in our senses, but there is that background of consciousness that is like pretty much everlasting. And the material is the simulation, and perhaps that simulation is created by something of an evil lean rather than it's God's actual simulation. Like the let there be light, that is, so that we can start to experience things. And perhaps he did let higher angels start to create universes for us to progress our soul and learn pretty much what I was saying, like that there is a connection to a greater collective that is tied to God rather than the simulation or the physicality that is a tool for us to learn through.
Well, one thing I could say is that I think it's good to you have a more balanced and mature view when you've experienced the extremes of both sides. So I feel like I've experienced the extremes of collectivism, and I've also experienced the extremes of isolation, which helps me kind of get to a point to where I can actually just be a little bit more balanced in that dichotomy. I found the word.
I
That's
think
it.
in order for the collective, the majority of people to experience that level of understanding about the universe and consciousness, like at this point, some people would literally need to be injected with something that would make them see, almost like Clockwork Orange, and it's not to take away from what you're saying, but I also think that there's just so many people who are completely uncurious in this kind of thing, where sometimes it's like, and again, this is the balance of like, how do you get somebody to fully utilize their abilities and talents and awareness to tap into that energy, that power that exists within this creation of ours. Some people would literally need to be forced somehow in order to achieve that, because and I'm not advocating for like a safe and effective mass vaccination of consciousness, but maybe I am.
Concentration camps. Concentration. Yeah, but
Concentration.
whoa. And there's like doses of mushroom, and it would have to be more of the natural, like psychedelics or drugs that make you start to realize those things.
Well,
Yeah,
I
we're
think-
gonna we're gonna put people on a train, but it's going to be very relaxing, and it'll end with them still being alive.
but red pilled,
But red
forcibly red pilled. Okay, well,
redpillcamps.com.
you guys have given me a lot to think about. I wanted to say, well, I wanted to talk about Thomas Massey, and because he's always doing his Massey thing where he refuses to go along, which is cool. He's a full-on lone wolf in the world of politics, and I think I think he really is incorruptible. I think he's autistic in that way where he does not care about what other people think, and he's there to basically be the one person in the crowd that's going to not go along with it, no matter
Well,
what anybody says.
he's like a fiscally conservative, right? So any big bill is against his like ethics.
He's against any spending at all.
Yeah.
I asked him on Twitter, or X, I wish he would have, I mean, there's no way he's going to respond to me, but I said, would you approve a spending bill of $10 to save a baby? Because he's so deontological, meaning he will not tell a lie. He will not, this is his principles, and he will not break them no matter what. And the problem is that type of thinking in the Republican Party has essentially got us to where we are now. If we would have understood that politics is about trade-offs, and it's not that you have to support abortion or start a bunch of foreign wars or do anything crazy and stupid, but to think that you're going to go to Washington and get anything done without making some sort of moral compromise. I mean, it's a utopian type of thinking, and it's hyper individualistic. It's deontological in a bad way. I think deontological principles are good, but when it comes to like getting anything done, especially because effectively he's going to effectively what happens is the Democrats get to do whatever they want and the Republicans can't do anything because of Thomas Massey's deontological principles. And I like Massey, I'm just saying. So it frustrates the hell out of me. And maybe he's right about the damn bill. But either way, I want Trump to have his agenda. We voted for Trump, not for Massey. But Massey's also representing what the government is like supposed to be, what the founders would have said of like checks and balances and checking power and stuff like that. And it's actually functioning the way it's supposed to be. And maybe Massey's just born in the wrong time, and maybe we don't deserve him. But he's pissing me off today. Or yesterday, I'd say.
Part of what he found, I think, is like a lot of the spending in there is like Biden's actual spending, because they did some sort of vote that just extended the spending as it was in 2024. So that's within this bill. They didn't change it. And then I guess potentially I heard the math calculates that it's actually going to cost like 10 trillion within the next like 10 years or something on top of what we already are behind on. So maybe he is kind of revealing some truth of maybe it's part of Trump's deal, you know, to not get freaking assassinated, to allow some of that money to keep flowing. But
well, it makes you wonder, like, so removing all the bullshit spending, which is the downside of this bill for sure, that it didn't do that. What are these Republican representatives so caught up on for this spending that is it going to their district? Is it just gimme that's like being handed out to all these where they're like, I know it's bullshit spending by Biden, but we're able to pocket it. Like, what is their motivation to where they can't? And I do appreciate Thomas Massey's principled stance. I also do get like frustrated that it's like, can you imagine if Thomas Massey was president? Like, would literally nothing would happen because he's like, executive orders are signed in this way are against the Constitution. Don't send me that bill. It's bullshit. Like, literally, he wouldn't sign anything.
We would be conquered in like 25 minutes. I feel like,
you know, so that is the unfortunate, that is the extreme side, and it's principled and he's correct. And like you said, I like the guy. He's right on pretty much most things. But it's like, and it is frustrating that the Republicans can't like remove some fucking spending more than what they did. That is fucking stupid.
Well, so I'd rather have the tax cuts than cutting the spending. So if we have to keep spending, I think it's worth it for the tax cuts. And also, I think it's worth it. I kind of see Trump's grander vision, his grander strategy, which is a cumulative type of holistic type of view and a strategy of ramping up domestic energy production, which will be a huge pillar of achieving his agenda or achieving his goal or executing his agenda. Renegotiating trade, which is happening. Which, you know, those trade relationships have been messed up for decades, and here he comes actually, you know, doing something and rebalancing trade. We also have a border that's actually closed. I was talking about earlier the things that I would be willing, you know, it's like I would love to see the justice. I would love to see, you know, some of these crazy psychotic tyrants like Biden and whoever's behind him in you know, behind bars and in handcuffs and, you know, taken away and I would love to see that justice, but I'd rather have that good economy. So the border is one of those things that I forgot to mention, which is huge. I mean, I almost forgot about it because it's like he came along and solved the problem within like a couple of weeks. So I think having that holistic strategy is what's going to help that bring down those deficits and the national debt. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. Blocking one Republican bill is not going to solve that problem. And I really do, I do have to side with Trump on this, that Massey doesn't understand government. He doesn't understand politics. He understands the concepts behind it, especially the ethical concepts behind it. But man, we're in a big mess right now. And being just principled fiscal conservatives is not going to get us out of this mess. And that's just the reality. And I'm sorry to break it to you, sir.
Well, go ahead, Seth.
I was just going to say, it seems like Trump is the only way that the country was going to shift towards anything positive, because he is a deal maker. He's kind of like the gray wizard that will, not judge either side and just make deals to move things forward. And beyond that, again, like I was saying before, if everyone's still paying attention and watching everything, then it'll keep pushing towards a more positive form of government and spending and everything. Since everyone's just so activated and like paying attention to politics now.
Yeah, and it's easy to start like being frustrated with certain outcomes, like this didn't happen at this time, like the Ukraine situation, or the whatever, getting all the mass deportations. But it's always important to keep things in perspective, because this could have been our reality.
Oh, no.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You've been sitting in the ground.
It isn't you're on television. Mike, look at her. No.
You know what? That's probably going to be my reality over here in California, to be honest with you.
Oh, God.
That's
no,
my prediction.
Lord.
My prediction is Kamala Harris will be governor of California after Gavin Newsom, which he's term limited out in, I think, a year and a half. So we're not done. The world is not done with Kamala, and Kamala is not done with the world. That's my prediction. Maybe she's gone forever. I could be wrong, but I don't know. I mean,
she's being investigated because of her campaign spending to potentially buy celebrity endorsements.
Yeah, the 11 million that goes to Beyonce for like a 15-minute bait and switch.
Yeah, there's a few that were not disclosed until recently, because they're trying to kind of save their, I don't know, case somehow by just being transparent finally on a few more. Like Alanis Morissette, I guess.
And maybe Springsteen and Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah.
So what's up with all this racism? I don't know if you guys noticed, but it is getting racist out there. And a part of me likes it because I love memes, and I personally think that racism is so funny. But it's starting to like get to a point to where it's like no, some of these people aren't really joking around. But yeah, I like recently got back on X, and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, dude,
like the Wild West of racism.
I forgot you weren't on X, because I was like, dude, you haven't seen the Shiloh, the Carmelo Anthony and the Shiloh Hendricks. And then it's just been, like I was saying on my feed, I'm like, oh man, it's just pushing the race war real hard right now. And some people might say like, okay, well, it's people being honest about some issues in the Black community where they're they're calling attention to it, and a lot of Black people too are saying like how some people behave in public, and just different things. But the hate level, it's always there, because Twitter, X is they're really like, I don't know, with free speech comes this element.
Oh, for
there
sure.
are so many accounts now where it's like, pushing alternative theories of World War II, which, I mean, have at it if this is free speech. But it does allow for some things to become mainstream. And it is kind of concerning in terms of again, where are we being prompted here? What are they trying? Like, I thought, like, are they trying to push people, like white people, to go out and do like riots in the like do race riots, or like to start like actually start a race war, or like just make things so tense, because that's a very easy tool of people in power to like utilize against people.
That would be interesting, because it would potentially reignite the Black Lives Matter to like go out and freaking battle in the street.
That's what I was thinking. I made the point of like, white people have the lowest racial consciousness of any other group in the United States, based off of like surveys and polls and some research studies. But I think that the powers that be, they really love that racial element for their neo-Marxism, their cultural Marxism. And so they need the white people, the whites, they need to raise the racial consciousness of the whites. And I think it's happening, and I think it's happening for somewhat of a good, understandable reason, for things like the Great Replacement, for, the things like the Great Replacement, and then also just having systematic, like, systemic racism against white people. So, but the problem is that's exactly like what they want, though. So I think a lot of white people are like, yes, we can finally say it. Yes, we can finally say that, 50% of crime is committed by 7% of the population. Finally, I can drop that N-bomb without any repercussions. But at the same time, like, that's exactly like what they want. They want that because they need you to be racist for their cultural Marxist revolution to occur.
Well, it's the inevitable boomerang of literally generations of demoralization against white people, for being shamed for everything that's ever happened in society. And there's a level of it that's good, in the sense that it's now like more socially acceptable to literally say, hey, it's okay to be white.
Yeah.
Which a few years ago, somebody posted that shit around campus, and it was called a hate crime. Which is like, so when you push this mindset for our entire life, like if you talk to your average, maybe not that politically active or even politically aware person, and a white person, you say like, what's your opinion on white people? Like, generally speaking, it's not that positive. And that's an unfortunate thing, where it's like we've been basically trained to be kind of cucked by our own identity, which is fucked up, because it's like, again, I'm not responsible for the sins of the past. Doesn't mean I have to deny it, but I also can be aware of some good things too. And it's so crazy to say, like, just think about it. Anyone else says, hey, I'm proud to be this. No one blinks an eye. But if you say, oh, I'm proud of my cultural heritage, and I happen to be white, like, how dare you? But the thing is, when you push that on people for so long, and then you open up the floodgates with X now, I can see how easy it is to just completely accelerate beyond just saying, like, I'm okay, like, I'm good being, like, I'm fine being my race is fine, and just say, like, it goes to the level of like, we need to fight back. And that is kind of like the slippery slope, where I understand that perspective, but I'm also like, guys, you got to be aware of how this can be used one way or the other. Doesn't mean you can't collectively have awareness of your race or your history or anything like that, and not just feel shame. But you gotta, how far is it going to go? I don't know, but it's gone crazy on X.
What do you think, Silas?
Have you guys been seeing the black fatigue videos as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, because I feel like everyone has a fatigue of a maybe a prejudice, and that prejudice, like for me, it's like the whole gangster attitude, and like taking it to the point that they're mimicking, like, just being negative all the time and acting like, times are always tough when it's tough for everyone. But they, express kind of like a negative aura through that, that culture or whatever. So so I'm like prejudiced against that with any race. Like it could be a Mexican dude, it could be a black dude, it could be a white dude. So I think everyone has some sort of fatigue, and putting it into one race or another is, fine, because there are racial, habits and, things that certain cultures have just gotten used to or programmed to do, whatever it was. So, depending on your personality and what it mixes with and doesn't mix with, everyone's going to have that, if you're being honest. So I think it's nice to see both black and white people kind of coming out about that. But it, in my opinion, what they're talking about can be, it's more of the culture that spreads between different communities, like black, Mexican, and white.
Yeah, like thug culture or gangster culture. That's like,
and similar to that is like the not the redneck culture as a whole, but there's like a subdivision that is similar. It has
Whoa.
that
Whoa.
negative aura. But
don't do it. Don't do it, Silas.
Multiple races are part of that culture too.
We are not criticizing the whites right now.
Even though you would associate it with white people. But there are black and Mexicans that are extreme radical rednecks.
Radical rednecks.
So,
well, yeah.
If you look at it through that lens, it's not as like divisive, but everyone's making it divisive.
Well, there's like an accountability issue that's been going on for a long time, where, people will call out like, certain sectors of white people for misbehaving, not, for one thing or another. And it's socially acceptable to talk like, well, what's wrong with the community in West Virginia or Appalachia, but when it comes to like oppressed groups, quote unquote, it's harder to do that, because then the label of racism is immediately thrown around. It's like, you can't criticize that. I remember Bill Cosby, before he got charged with that whole thing, he took a lot of heat because he was trying to basically the classic line, like, pull your pants up, to the black community when it comes to certain behaviors that maybe are not, like cohesive to living in the society that you want for you too. It's not just, other races. It's just like, and it's been normalized to a certain extent, and no one's kind of holding that to account. And I think a lot of people are, just calling that out. And yet it comes through the lens of like, what's wrong with, people paint with a broad brush, because obviously not all black people are the same. Like that's obvious. But it's been so taboo to talk about for so long that like we don't have the right context to have a civil conversation. Obviously, X is not the forum for that for most things. So when race gets unleashed, it's like it's gonna come out really, really divisive, obviously. So, but the conversation does need to be had on many fronts, and I think it would be better if it wasn't so heated, but I guess that's just how it's coming out,
Yeah. I mean, there is problems in the black community, of course, but I've got white liberal fatigue. I mean, say what you want about the black community, but at least they don't like trans their kids for the most part. At least they're not like collectivist utopians, that are trying to use the government to, force their utopia on everybody. I don't see the black people trying to force vaccines onto people. I'm very frustrated with the whites at the moment. I'm more frustrated with the whites than I am with the blacks. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I think some of the white people are way more damaging than the black people at this point. But it's just like a trend right now, the black fatigue. And like Silas said, like that thug gangster culture, it's like gangster fatigue doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
Yeah, a lot of people have pointed out that the issue isn't necessarily race, and I think this also applies to what you're talking about with white liberals. Is the feminine energy has become out of whack and you can say this in the black community. There's a lot of absent fathers. It's like people have said it's like a matriarchy in the black community, where the mother is more in charge of the household than the man. And you see that in white liberal families too, where the guy just goes along to get along, like his wife believes this. And you've seen those videos of the dad after their son has come out as a daughter, and they do I don't know if you saw that gender reveal where that pans in on that guy's face, and it's just like pure pain because this guy doesn't actually stand for it, but he's just going along. And that gets back to, again, the issue of accountability, because when it comes to patriarchal setups, you are more like sometimes you have to put your foot down and use your rational mind and get out of just emotions for a second, and to say, like, this is how things need to be. And we're not going in that. You can see that on a societal level too. Like, when you are only thinking with emotion, you open the borders and you let anyone in because we feel bad for them. And sometimes you need that masculine energy, and it is a balance. I'm not saying that feminine energy obviously has a very important role, but as a society, when you lean more towards one way, you see the outcomes, and you see it with certain factor or sections of the black community. You see it in white liberal households too. You see it all over, and that's just something that we're lacking right now, is some drastic accountability, which is probably why Mr. Orange Man got in.
So are you guys cool with putting T Daddy Trump on the Mount Rushmore?
Yeah. That's the transition.
No, I was going to transition to just really quick. Sorry, I'm not uninterested. I just wanted to keep jumping around. What do you think about this Qatari jet situation? And also, I saw somewhere that the Trump organization did sign some sort of huge multi-billion-dollar development deal with Qatari. I know that they did a deal with the government, but also with some sort of it's like Qatari real estate deal that they're going to go develop some hotels over there or something like that. And so a lot of people would think like, hey, he's a president, they're giving him a jet, the Trump organization signs this huge deal. Like, it seems like there's some quid pro quo possible corruption type situation going on. I've just been telling the liberals on X, like, I don't care if he's corrupt. I actually just don't care at this point, because I don't know. I'm just trying to be honest, I guess.
Yeah, I don't view it, I guess, as corruption if it is all disclosed, like you can find the information. So it's like he, like I said, is kind of like in a gray area where he'll make deals that make sense for everyone that's involved, and that includes his, his well-being and his organizations, and he's on the way out. So he's thinking of his family line more than, I think, his own personal, enrichment at this moment. So I think he's making deals that are, comprised of all kinds of stuff that we would maybe call corruption. But like I said, it's the only way it's going to move towards anything positive. is making deals with both sides.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I don't care at all about the jet. Like I don't.
It's just another controversy.
I don't care. I mean, sure, you could say like, oh, this is a conflict of interest. Like, yeah, just like everything in this world is.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in politics. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. This is Trump. Like, of all the things that we're concerned about right now, I just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
If someone wants to get on their high horse like Joe from Jurors and say this is the thing we need to focus on, not the demented, dying president we had for 4 years. Let's look ahead. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Yeah, well, I saw a pretty a guy I'd never seen before from like TMZ, and he was talking about this, and he was saying, well, you know how much money it's going to cost? They actually have to bring that jet over here, and it's going to cost them $100 million to take it apart. They have to take it apart to like do all these to make sure that the like security, just to make sure that it's like all secure and there's no like, you know, bugs or anything or bombs or anything like that. So they basically have to take apart the jet and put it all back together and retrofit it for Trump's purposes. And that's going to cost the taxpayers $100 million. And it's like, I'm like, the liberals are hitting Trump with like spending too much money. It's kind of an interesting flip-flop there. And I guess my only thing is like, why isn't it being made in the US? But I guess Boeing had a contract that was supposed to go through and they haven't delivered. Do you guys know the details on that?
Yeah, it was supposed to be done within his first term. He bought it in the first term and it's still not done.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, that's what they're really waiting on. And I don't think he's going to use it for Air Force One, this one from Qatar, whatever. But he said it's going to be with the Department of Defense or something like that. They'll use it for whatever. But yeah, even with taking it all apart and putting it back together, like I still wouldn't trust it. Because you can't underestimate like your potential enemies, and the type of tech they may have could be something you're not even aware of or looking for.
Yeah. I just liked the situation because it just makes it look like, I mean, Trump he's demanding and people respect him and stuff like that. Like nobody's giving bumbling Joe, old sleepy Joe, a jet, like a $400 million jet. But, you know, once Trump gets on the stage, you know, they roll out the red carpets. They actually try to be nice to us because they know that they need us. So I actually thought it was a cool like gesture of goodwill, but I also think it's funny that every time they fall for it, like they're so reactionary. They don't control the news anymore. It's such a good example of like they don't control the narrative. They don't control the news anymore. The conservatives used to be the reactionaries. You know, the establishment would set the narrative, and then the conservatives are reactionary, trying to figure out a way to stop them. And now it's totally flipped, 100% polar opposite. They are the reactionaries, and maybe that's just the nature of being out of power, your party being out of power. But it's like they've definitely lost whatever magic that they had, and watching them be reactionaries is just, oh, it's so pleasing to my soul.
Well, yeah, speaking of reactions, you had Comey threatening Trump with those seashells. I don't know if you guys saw, he was on
threatening him with the seashells.
Yeah, he's gonna throw it at him and cut his artery there. But he was actually on Colbert and he was talking about the issue. I don't know if you guys caught this. Pretty crazy.
Get this straight. You were walking on the beach with your boyfriend,
Yes.
and you found this big cucumber sticking out of the sand.
That's correct.
Okay, but how did it end up halfway up your ass? I mean, did you pick it up and stick it up your ass, or did your boyfriend help with that? Like, how did it happen?
It's a funny story, actually. We were walking down the beach, and all of a sudden my boyfriend says, "Look, there seems to be a giant cucumber sticking out of the sand." So I just went over to check it out, and I was wearing flip-flops, so I tripped, and I literally landed right on top of it with my ass, Steve. So I told my boyfriend, should we go back home and try put some baby oil on it? And my boyfriend was like, that sounds like fun, honey. And I said, nah, man, it's stuck up my ass. This is serious.
So he wanted to rub some baby oil on it and push it further or something, kind of like a Diddy party.
Yeah, he got excited and shit. So anyway, we just went back home. We put some baby oil on it and finally got it out. And to be honest, it still hurts a little bit, but not as much as the day Trump shit canned me. That one really hurt. I'm still butthurt from it. That's why I posted the seashells thingy on Instagram.
So let me.
Bravo to whoever made that.
Yep.
They should have never given us AI.
Oh, that's the best, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Awesome. So what do you guys, how are you feeling? You want to keep cruising or?
Yeah, that's a good lead into Cuck of the Week.
Yeah, right.
Cuck of the Week. Cuck of the Week.
We need a jingle.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Cuck of the Week.
Okay. Who's going first?
Jinx. I'll go first.
Yeah.
If I can share this thing. I don't know, maybe you guys saw this one. Let me see. Did you guys see this one?
I don't think so.
Well, it's like, you live all year long in your little box, and you come here for 1 week. You can kind of live out crazy fantasies, and you can get away with it, and no one cares. And what happens in Key West stays here.
My husband and I were talking about. Have you been before? Oh, cool.
I'm telling you, the whites are out of control, guys.
Yeah.
I'm racist against that guy.
Whatever he is.
I have fatigue of whatever.
Yeah. I have tutu fatigue.
God. I had to see it, so you guys had to see it. Okay,
All right.
who's next?
I'll go up. Where is it here? Yeah, this guy.
That if you have a father or brother that supports Trump even now, I need you to know that they're not a man. They're not. They are in no way whatsoever a man and can never call themselves that. Ever.
Oh wow, the whites. Silas, you're muted. Oh, nice.
Yeah, so this is 3 examples of cucks by the grandmaster cuck creator, Donald J. Trump.
You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't, please,
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But
never say never. Never say never. Why wouldn't you arrest that man? That man said, kill the white farmers, kill the white farmers. And then he danced, and he's dancing, and it's kill the white farmers. I think, I'm not sure, but I think if somebody got up in Parliament and started saying, kill a certain group of people, he would be arrested very quickly. That man is going all over South Africa, and that's not a small party. That was a stadium that holds 100,000 people, and I hardly saw an empty seat. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of representation. And those crosses, we have dead white people, dead white farmers, mostly.
Dead white people.
Did you see the part where the guy tried to try to get one on Trump, and he goes, "I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to get you," and he's like, "Well, I wish you did."
I didn't see that. No.
That's great. This would make this a lot easier if you just gave me a plane. Oh my god.
All right, who's got it?
I vote for Tyler.
I'm gonna say, I can't. I got to go 3 in a row for that cut clip.
Oh, for Psy Guy.
It is the literal cuck, like the ultimate cuck.
Yeah.
The cuck maker in chief, Donald J. Trump. Dang,
Yep.
3 in a row, Psy Guy.
Reigning champ.
I'm gonna get you. We're gonna have a prize, a Cuck of the Week prize soon. I'm working on it.
Perfect.
It's that cucumber.
Well, real quick, do you guys? I don't think anything should happen to Comey. I know everybody like MAGA Twitter was going crazy. Arrest this man. I'm like, it's just like,
yeah. No, it's
kind of dumb. Yeah, I mean,
But-
86 can be interpreted not just as kill him,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
exactly.
It's one of those things where it's like, if we're going to send the FBI out, let's send it to people who've committed crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's a bad look, and it's like, they're kind of playing it up, but like, I don't know. I mean, fuck Comey. Like, I don't really care if they did go after him, but it's stupid.
I kept saying, show me the man, show me the crime. I'm okay with it just because I think he probably deserves to be in jail for something else, but not for that.
Yeah, exactly. I think he arranged the shells too. I don't think he stumbled upon it.
Oh, yeah, not his wife. He's all trying to blame it on his wife.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Beta move.
Oh my god, what a dickhead.
Yeah.
Since we were talking about this earlier, I wanted to just quick bring in this clip of Trump talking the N-word.
Stronger, to a point where the next one's going to be, you know what, the N-word. You know what the N-word is, right?
Nuclear.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
I figured you'd want to clean that up. No, it's the N-word. That's a very nasty word, right? In a lot of ways. The N-word used.
We can finally say it.
Nuclear.
That setup, he just loves doing the N-word. You know what the N-word is.
You know what the N-word is.
He is the ultimate troll. He's the cup maker in chief and the ultimate troll master.
The goat troll, man.
No, he knows that they're gonna their heads are gonna explode.
Yeah.
I love it when he said black jobs, and they're like, "Sir, can you explain to me what a black job is?" It's like a job that a black person holds.
Do you remember when Shane Gillis was Trump on Kill Tony, and that got brought up? Like, what are these black jobs?
He's like, yelling loud on buses.
Yeah, be loud on buses.
Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, only boys and only girls, no in-betweens. It's been a good time. It's been a good night.
And as a reminder, trust the plan.
Trust it.
Ha